What is going on, party people? Captain Zeus here, and I am back with another review, and this time it is over Marvel Studios' Fantastic Four First Steps. Now, I will be going into spoilers for this, as this movie did just come out Thursday evening, so spoiler warning up ahead for those of you that haven't got the chance to see it opening weekend. Now, if you guys like these reviews that we do here on the channel, please like and subscribe, and let us know in the comments below your thoughts on the movie, your hopes for the movie, and any other movie reviews or TV show reviews you'd like us to do on the channel. To start things off, I'm just going to go over my overall thoughts. I thought this movie was good. I genuinely thought this was a good movie. I would say this was better than Superman. I know a lot of people would probably come at me in the comments for it, but I'm more of a DC guy, and I'm still admitting this is better than Superman. Not by a large margin, though. I will say the CGI is a lot better than the Superman movie, except for the ending scene with, again, spoiler warning, Sue's death. It was very like last minute rushed kind of deal, it seemed. And the baby CGI wasn't the greatest, but I think it was really because they were trying to CGI a baby onto a mocap thing, which could be difficult, but with the budget and time that they had for this, I don't see an excuse. I will say they did use a lot more practical effects. Kirby was practical. I really enjoyed that. The soundtrack was beautiful. Michael Giacchino, he is a fantastic composer. His range is freaking nuts, and he's a director now, which is even better. I'd love to see him direct and compose his own full-length movie, but he did a great job with the soundtrack. The vibes of the movie, very much retro, like the 60s vibes. I know there's a specific accent for that time period. Can't remember what it was called, but that time period of movie shows, etc. Totally, they went that route with this, and I loved that. Even the intro to the movie, they didn't go with the typical MCU intro, and I think they're going away with that now with projects because it's kind of become less interesting, takes too much time. I'm not sure, but they're going away from their typical MCU intro, and they're kind of doing what DC does, and they just do a little intro and they're going right into the movie, which is great because people have short attention spans as it is. Now, in terms of the plot, I will say that's one of the main reasons why I would say this was better than Superman, because the plot was way more concrete. It was something that you knew was going to happen and you could follow from start to finish. Whereas with Superman, it was kind of just like, not ambiguous per se, but it was more about Superman's journey, in my opinion. I don't know how else to explain it. But nevertheless, also, speaking of plot and CGI, Galactus looked phenomenal. Ralph Ineson, I don't want to see anyone else play Galactus but him. He did a superb job. Same thing with the Silver Surfer. It was Shia LaBeouf, not NORAD. They did not do a female version of NORAD, thank God. They did a female Silver Surfer, which is Shia LaBeouf. I loved that. They went with a different character, and she was awesome. CGI was awesome. Love the actress that played her. Really gave off some good Silver Surfer vibes. Kind of reminds me of how NORAD was in the Rise of the Silver Surfer Fantastic Four movie. But Galactus was going after Franklin Richards because he was like, yeah, this dude is gonna replace me because he has cosmic powers and he could sate this hunger. He could free me from this prison. And I was totally into it. For those that don't know, Franklin Richards is like stupid powerful, like really powerful. But this definitely was a family movie. Family was the theme in this for a variety of different reasons. Between saving the world, between the Fantastic Four's accomplishments, between protecting and keeping Franklin safe, between just staying with each other through these tough times. Family was the theme of this movie, and I loved that. One thing that Superman did well that this movie also piggybacked off of, or whatever you want to say, is that they're bringing back a positive message that is family friendly and one that should be spread more often, just like in comic books. For Superman, it was hope. I mean, it was Superman, but it was also being kind. Being kind is not a bad thing. Being a good person isn't a bad thing. With Fantastic Four, it was definitely loving your family isn't bad. The typical good moral situations and tropes, if you will, that is always deemed negative or unappealing, they definitely are going forward with in this, and I loved that. Another thing I loved is the Jack Kirby Stan Lee like inspiration throughout all of this. Heck, they named their ship the Excelsior. Oh my gosh, was that awesome. Also, they had a synagogue in there, which I never would have thought Disney would have done in a movie for 1,000 years, knowing how they are with politics and stuff. I never would have thunked it. It surprised me that they had it in there, and I was like, you know what, good for them. Good for them. I know how Stan Lee's religion inspired his comic book characters, and half of them are Jewish as well, especially the OGs. I think Ben is Jewish, if I recall correctly, which explains why he went into the synagogue. dialogue, but nevertheless, I would say it's shorter than Superman too. That's the other thing. It's an hour 55. Superman's 2 hours and 6 minutes, so it's not by a lot. It very much gets right into it. It doesn't do an origin story. It does like an origin recap montage, which was awesome. The cast was actually fantastic. Vanessa Kirby was great. Eben Boss Mokrat did a fantastic job as a thing. I was skeptical at first, but he was great. Joseph Quinn as Johnny Storm. Oh my gosh, he did such a good. Everyone did great. Everyone did great, and they filled their roles perfectly and beautifully. And this movie, other than the CG that I mentioned, didn't have many flaws except for a few things. One is the hype that Disney/Marvel put for this movie was not delivered, nor was the connections between the other movies explained. For example, at the end of the Thunderbolts, we see the Fantastic Four spaceship entering their atmosphere. They are on a different Earth. They're in 2 different universes. The Fantastic Four first steps is from Earth 282, if I recall correctly. The MCU Earth is like Earth 616616, something like that. It's actually not Earth 616, just clarifying, by the way. And so it doesn't explain how they got to that universe at all. Now, there were end credit scenes in the movie, really pointless. You could leave the theater and not be impacted by it, because the first end credit scene is 4 years after the movie, like the events of the movie happened, and Sue Storm is reading to Franklin. He's 4 years old at this point, obviously, and she comes back from grabbing his favorite book, and you see Dr. Doom there. You would think it's cool, except all you see is the backside to him, because it's just cloak over him as he kneels down to Franklin. He has his mask off. You see the mask just in his hand out here. You don't see his face because Franklin's like touching his face, I guess, and that's it. It doesn't explain anything about that. He's just there. And then the second end credit scene is just the cartoon intro to the in-universe cartoon show for the Fantastic Four, which is crazy because the Russo brothers supposedly directed the end credit scene and were on set for it, which begs the question, why were they there to begin with if the end credit scene was so pointless? It didn't make any sense to me. And it doesn't explain how they get to a different universe. At the end of the day, they defeat Galactus by sending him through a wormhole to the other side of the universe, and all's well that ends well. It was just like Superman in the sense of it's like you're watching a comic book on the big screen, which is not a bad thing. I really did enjoy it. I would go see it again, but it was a little underwhelming. I went in with low expectations as is, but it was just underwhelming. I was hoping they were going to do more in terms of connecting it with Thunderbolts, or at least with Doomsday, because there has been no build up to Doomsday, and they're supposedly filming right now. They actually have the guy that wrote Loki writing the script as the movie's filming, or assisting writing the script, which is crazy that you're going into production and the script's not finished or completed. Like, that's not red flag, hello. But it's crazy because we've had 2 movies since Doomsday's announcement finish filming, come out, and no connections to either or what it's about. I have very low expectations for Doomsday, and I'm very concerned, I'll be completely honest. Now, one thing I would say about this movie that brings in some theories is I think we know how Secret Wars happens and why Franklin Richards is a character in this. Now, if I recall correctly in the comics, Franklin Richards was born with his sister. They were twins. But they only went with the solo dolo boy this time. And I think the reason why is because they're going to use him as the replacement for Molecule Man, as the source of... I haven't read the Secret Wars event in a while, so forgive me for my lack of knowledge. Comic book nerds, you could please correct me in the comments. But Molecule Man was the source of Doom's like power or resetting the universe, etc. I think what's going to happen in this MCU Secret Wars is that instead of Molecule Man, since he hasn't been introduced yet, it'll be Franklin Richards because of his cosmic and reality warping abilities. So I think that's why Dr. Doom popped up at the end credit scenes of Fantastic Four, and why Franklin Richards was such an important plot point in this movie is because they're going to use him in Secret Wars in some capacity like that. But that's just my theory of it. I would say if I had to rate this movie, I'd probably give this an 8.5. I did say it was better than Superman, but again, not by a large margin. Matt Shankman surprised me though. Matt Shankman surprised me. I wasn't a fan of WandaVision whatsoever, but man, you surprised me with this one. Good job, man. But that's just my thoughts on the Fantastic Four First Steps movie. What were you guys' thoughts? Were you also disappointed by the end credit scenes and the lack of connection to literally anything else MCU? Let me know in the comments below. I'm Captain Zeus, and I'll catch you guys later. See ya.